Welcome back to Advanced Survey Research. I'm Dr. Kritzer, and this is Unit 3, Part 2. Well, in the previous presentation, in Part 1, I showed you how to put the demographics into Excel and how to sort these demographics and come up with some means based on these demographics. And we looked at how various demographics did on test scores. Well, let's say that we were to ask a group of people whether or not they agreed on something, just a simple yes or no. And let's say we asked 100 people whether they agreed on something, and we took a look at the gender breakdown. And it turned out that 60 males said yes, and 40% of the males said no, as opposed to 40% of the females saying yes, and 60% of the males saying no. And what we want to take a look at is there a significant difference between males and females in this area? Essentially, is there a significant difference between these two groups? And I could show you how to do this in Excel, but there's a much simpler way to figure this out. We're going to use chi-square, and I'm going to go to a web-based application. And in this web-based application, you'll notice that I found, here's a way to compute and find out, is there a difference between these two groups using this chi-square calculator? And I already have my yes, no, and males and females here. So I click next. And now I'm going to put the numbers, the percentages in there. So we had 60-40, and we had 40-60. And now, click next, and we always want to analyze based at the 0.05 in social sciences. Take my word for it. And we're going to calculate whether or not there is something different between these two groups. We're going to calculate the chi-square. And it says here that the result is significant at p less than 0.05. In other words, yes, there is a difference between males and females, and we can explore further what those differences are regarding this issue. Now, let's say that we had more than that number of groups. Let's say that we took a look based on the previous survey and we looked at occupations and we asked people the same question and see whether they agreed or disagreed based on their occupation. And we see here that we look at the for-profit, non-profit, government, healthcare, and education and see how the breakdown occurs. And so we can do the same thing. We can see, is there really a difference between these groups here? By going back to the chi-square calculator, and we're going to start again. And this time we're going to have more groups. So you will notice that I have put the figures into this chi-square calculator for these 5 groups: for profit, nonprofit, government, healthcare, education. And now let's see, is there a significant difference? Is there something different about these groups that caused them to answer this question this way? And at the 0.05 level, we calculate and find that yes, there is a significant difference between these groups. So now let me show you something else. You will notice, once again, the same figures based on these 5 groups. But what if I were to change these figures? What if I were to make the for-profit 60-40, and I were to make education 40-60? Let's see what would happen. Well, you will notice that we still have a significant difference between groups. Finally, I want to show you what it looks like if there really isn't a big difference between groups. So you'll notice I've changed the numbers and I made them closer together in terms of agree, yes, no, disagree. And analyzing at the 0.05, you see that the result is not significant. There's nothing there to explore. Well, I'm Dr. Kritzer. I hope that this has been helpful. This is Unit 3, Part 2. I will be back with you again for Unit 4.